Have you ever been in that situation where you and your partner are talking, but it feels like you're speaking completely different languages? You say one thing, they hear something else entirely. And before you know it, a simple chat has spiraled into a full-blown argument. It's an incredibly common frustration. So today, we're going to dive into one of the most famous frameworks ever created to try and explain this massive disconnect.
It's a feeling we've all had, right? You think you're on the exact same page, but for some reason, the message just isn't getting through. Well, according to author John Gray, this very feeling, that you're literally worlds apart, is actually the key to understanding one of the biggest sources of conflict in our relationships.
And what's really fascinating is that this entire world-famous theory was sparked by a single, incredibly raw moment in his own life. After his daughter was born, his wife Bonnie was just completely overwhelmed, and she felt like he'd abandoned her. So when he got home, she was upset, and his immediate reaction was to get defensive. As he was turning to just leave the room, she said something that stopped him dead in his tracks. "This is when I need you the most." And in that one instant, it hit him. She didn't want solutions. She just wanted comfort. It was a total revelation.
That light bulb moment became the whole foundation for the book's central idea. So Gray asks us to imagine that once upon a time, men lived on Mars and women lived on Venus. They met, they fell in love, and they decided to move to Earth to be together. But in the process of adapting to this new world, something really important was forgotten.
According to the book, they basically developed this kind of selective amnesia. They completely forgot that they came from different planets and that they have inherent fundamental differences. And that, right there, is the core of the problem. Because we've forgotten, we just automatically expect our partners to think, feel, and react the exact same way we do. And Gray argues that this one single, flawed expectation is the source of so much unnecessary friction. So, let's break down what these planetary differences actually look like, according to this theory. Over on Mars, your sense of self is built around things like power, competence, and achievement. Martians, he says, feel good about themselves when they can solve problems and get results on their own. But on Venus, it's a totally different story. The core values there are all about love, communication, and relationships. Venusians find their fulfillment by sharing, nurturing, and connecting with others. And the book is clear. These aren't just minor quirks. They are fundamental to how each person defines their own self-worth.
And you know where these different operating systems really clash? It's in how we handle stress. This is one of the biggest friction points for couples. Because according to the theory, our instincts are pretty much polar opposites. Okay, so when a Martian is stressed, his first instinct is to get quiet, pull away, and retreat into his mental cave. You know, that place where he can just focus on the problem by himself until he figures out a solution. For him, solving it is what brings relief. But a Venusian's instinct is completely the opposite. She looks for someone she trusts to just talk about it all, lay it all out there. For her, relief comes from expressing her feelings and feeling like she's been heard and understood. She's not looking for a solution. She's looking for empathy.
So what are you supposed to do when the man in your life retreats into his cave? The book's advice is going to sound totally backward at first. You don't follow him in, you don't offer advice, you definitely don't ask him about his feelings. To him, all that feels like you don't trust him to handle it on his own. No, the most supportive thing you can do, according to Gray, is to give him a space and go do something that makes you happy. That trust is actually a huge form of support, and get this, it helps him come out of his cave sooner.
Now, this whole cave versus talk-it-out dynamic naturally leads us to the next major hurdle, communication. It's not just about what we do when we're stressed, it's about how we talk about it, and pretty much everything else. The book's big point here is that even when we're using the exact same words, we're often speaking completely different languages.
And this leads to two classic mistakes that we make with the best of intentions. First, you've got Mr. Fix-It. She comes to him to talk about her bad day, and he immediately jumps in with a 5-point plan to solve all her problems. He's trying to show he cares, but all she feels is that he's not listening. Then, on the other side, you have the Home Improvement Committee. She loves him and wants to help him be his best self, so she offers little bits of unsolicited advice and helpful criticism. She thinks she's being nurturing, but all he hears is that he's not good enough.
So the key to all of this is learning how to translate. The book argues that women often use dramatic, sweeping language not to state a literal fact, but to express an underlying feeling. Just look at these. When she says, "we never go out," she's not making a statistical analysis of your social calendar. What she's really saying is, "I miss you, and I want to feel close to you." But the Martian hears it literally as an accusation of failure, and he immediately gets defensive. Gray says that learning to listen for the emotional message behind the words, well, that changes the entire game. Okay, so we've seen all these ways we completely misunderstand each other. The big question is obvious. How do we fix it? How on earth are we supposed to bridge this massive planetary divide? Well, the solution the book offers is actually surprisingly simple in concept, even if it's not always so easy to put into practice.
It really all comes down to this one idea. The goal isn't to make Martians more like Venusians, or to make Venusians act more like Martians. That's a losing battle. The goal is to become a skilled translator. It's about respecting that your partner simply has different customs and a different native language, and then choosing to learn them, out of love.
So it really boils down to 3 steps. First, just acknowledge the differences. Seriously, in a moment of tension, just reminding yourself, oh right, he's from Mars or she's from Venus, can create just enough space to breathe. Second, stop trying to change them. Let go of being Mr. Fix-It or the head of the home improvement committee. And third, start practicing your translation. Listen past the words on the surface and ask yourself, what's the real feeling they're trying to share with me right now?
And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. So often we assume our relationship problems are because of a lack of love, or maybe we're just not compatible. But what if the love is actually still there, strong as ever? What if the real issue, as this book suggests, is simply that we've forgotten we're from different worlds, and the one thing we really need, more than anything else, is just a good translator?